Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Today's Wednesday, September 11th, 2024. All right, let's just get started. Hopefully, you've had a moment to take a moment and remember the events from September 11th, 2001, if you are a U.S. citizen. Um, yeah, it's a very important moment for our country. All right, thank you. Let's get started. So, our goal here is to review the market generated information in a holistic fashion. We are intimately following the auctions narrative for both ES and NQ. If we have time, we'll theorize and add additional commentary towards the end. We did speculate in the market today, however, we did not have any commentary uploaded. It is just straight the recording, about the same time frame though. Feel free to look at it to look at the DOM. Um, yeah, or whatever you feel like. All right, perfect. Let's get started. So we'll start off with our narrative and our summary questions. So where is the market coming from, and what's the overall narrative that we have? So today was CPI. Do remember that this is something that's been heavily anticipated, especially as we have our potential rate cuts that are coming for next week, rather, at the FOMC. So highly anticipated. The former was the non-farm payrolls on Friday. So this was the next big focus. Very big deal. Looking at the monthly, of course, we'll have our sneak peek, and weekly and daily. Do remember that we were coming from the Bulls having the control over the higher time frame, and then the Bears really putting some force down, and we were just bear flagging this whole time. So really the goal for the Bears was to continue to push price lower as they were and break this low. I didn't say that their goal was to keep the damn low, but they broke it and gave it up and then some. But anyways, the goal for the sellers was to push below the prior day's low from Tuesday and ideally close below, or if not, at least tag it and just stay within the inside bar from non-farm payroll. This was their protection. The Bulls ideally just wanted to break above this high, and we can see how we ended here. But we'll need a little more context on what transpired because it's somewhat important. And yeah, I'll leave the rest out. But yeah, same situation in Q. Bullish on the higher time frame, much weaker to the tech side. They let us up, they let us down. Same situation. Bears wanted to stay within the Friday candle, and Bulls wanted to just get above. And the end result was much higher, much more of a win for the Bulls. So if we can look a little deeper and see where this context came from. So again, not too much on the earnings calendar. Hey, maybe all this was GameStop, who knows? But not too much. Same situation here for the data, just CPI. And we'll look at the sector tracker in just a moment. But let's look at the NQ since they did. Actually, we'll start with the S&P 500 since they started. Since they finished still decently strong for sure. For sure, absolute strength. But of course, it's going to look a little more pronounced on the NQ just for the price that they move. 156 range is amazing. From the open, we had 90 points of range to the downside and 60 points of range to the upside. Amazing range. All that potential energy is still here. Hopefully you can understand that. All this balance just transferred lower with increasing volume. And do remember this is still the rollover week. The energy is just being transferred just lower and lower and lower. Now it's being passed to the side. Volume is still fairly decent. Delta is really pushing. We made a note about this yesterday. And then just the same situation, just a solid thrust from buyers, new money buyers, and shorts covering for sure. We'll look at the intraday so we can get a little more details, but massive volume, about the same, quite similar to non-farmers payroll, but in a different structure. This was much more pronounced to the downside and stayed down. Same situation to the downside here, but an absolute push upwards. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. Of course, we don't have the whole replay for the day. We have the first 2 hours. So you see the beginning of it, which was really cool. And they stopped at the IB mid, but we'll be able to look at it a little bit for the footprint. I digress. Same situation here. Nice volume, big delta. Notice the maximum delta was 7,000, and we finished at 5,500. So we just really finished strong. And then the minimum got down to 3,300. So sellers had control for a while. They really gave it up here in the middle section near these 800s, which I believe was like a key zone, if I recall. We'll get the same respect to the S&P 500. We got up to 43K max, and we finished at 38K. Really not too much control for the sellers for too long. It was just a lot of buyers in here the whole time, and sellers just really had to force it down. And once we did get it down, we ended up giving it back up, which is the same thing that we've been seeing over the past couple of days. We've been seeing this. This isn't normal. For you to have this big non-farm payrolls day and you close on big volume at the lows, and for you to drift up in the overnight and then close and hold it, test lower. But again, we won't get ahead of ourselves. I'm sorry, I'm a little excited. So we see how we finish on the daily candles. Let's look at the sector tracker. We can see the majority of this is going to be technology. They up 3.4%. I would imagine this is going to be NVIDIA. Like, who the fuck else would it be? Of course, NVIDIA, 8%. And then Broadcom. So chips were really killing it today. Microsoft had a good day, and Apple isn't crapping the bed. Everyone else, not really too much. You can kind of take all this with a grain of salt. When technology is really pushing like this, I won't say nothing else matters, but they just need to not do bad. So be down like more than 1%. So I mean, the bigger the ones that matter is financials and healthcare. They did their jobs, industrial, so on and so forth, utilities, a little bit, communications, the discretionary and technology, communications, they don't have to. But as long as we have our number 2 and 3 that are holding strong, technology can put this shit on their back rather. Cool. So let's look at the S&P 500, who's going to be a little more balanced. So if you can just bear with me, let's start with our context. Again, we have our highest time frame. This goes back to April, the middle of April. And we have the majority of volume that's done at the 5640s. We all remember this if you've been following along. We've been talking about this for the longest. We all saw that once we got lower, we just automatically claimed our way back up, and then just big balancing above the 5400s. As we got rejected from these 5640s all the way down to the 5400s, big volume lower. We've been discussing this. Support turning into resistance. We're still selling off. As we hit these lows near these 5400s, we just can't trade below it. So say what you will, but the buyers have done a solid job of not giving up too much ground. It seems this area where we didn't trade too much, I guess that's just the truth. We're just not trading too much below it. Do remember that this gray zone above us, this was a contract premium, which I like having this marked, and that has turned into a high volume node. We are consistently trading above that premium. So this is a solid price, which makes sense with the balance. So it seems more of the same, and then as some people find this as like choppy or annoying, we are extremely balanced. We are doing the majority of volume near these highs. That's just the case. We're at all-time highs. 2-week balance. We slip through. We're bear flagging, and there's no continuation. We start drifting. We're working our way back up to balance. That appears to be what's happening. Really no more, no less. There's no real volume at these lows, which is the same thing that we were seeing prior to. We're just finding our way back up. And I think that's really it. For the context of this, we can look more at the 3-minute candles. You can only see so much here. Plus the intraday candles is something cool that I want to share too with the footprint and trap sellers. Okay, so same context with the NQ. The only difference is that their balance is a little lower. Same situation, not as much defense from the buyers at the lows for NQ. It took them a little while to kind of get their steam going, but they're eventually drifting up as well. As they sold off and broke this balance here near the 19,600s. We had that discount of $1,000 all the way back down basically to these 1800s, or it was really like 18,300, 18,200 or so. Coiling sideways, we start to drift up. And then the same situation. We're finding our way back into the balance from yesterday, completely burst through, excuse me, for this month rather. We were hitting our heads, building volume below this high volume node for the month, where the majority of volume has taken, burst through, and we're holding it. It's only been a short amount of time, but it was very easy for the buyers to push this through as we had singles from September 3rd here and here. So just breaking down a lot of thin walls. Not much volume has been traded here. Seems like we're heading back to this balance zone, which is near those 19,600s. So again, though this is extremely aggressive, this isn't unexpected. We're balancing higher. And as we broke through here, we're now trading on this other side. So choppy, I don't know. It's kind of up to you, but it seems to be more balanced trading. There's 4 singles left for the NQ and 2 for the S&P 500. No. Oh crap, I merged it. But yeah, it's what singles are. But yeah, it's like 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that was a singles left. So just prices just rapidly just going clear and balanced there. Not much trading at those prices. All right, let's look at the intraday because we're running a little long. So again, we have our 138 minute candles. Nice. NQ was able to go down, break through this gray zone here, and ended up testing this purple, which was our line in the sand for the buyers. These mid 500s perfectly bounced off, came all the way back into the range, and then just exploded higher, using all these stuck sellers to short squeeze, and even just new money longs that were able to join from these lower prices. Again, same situation as the market profile, but you may find this a little easier for you to see with your own eyes. And then looking at the ES, same situation. Remember, they have a little bit of a higher balance. You can see where they're coming from. Same situation here. They broke their gray zone here, and they ended up piercing some singles from earlier this week, and then finding some support from Friday. We can see how close they were from the RTH low, but again, we'll look at that shortly. Same situation. They were able to pierce these singles from 9.3, and they closed near and above their former resistance near these highs. So looking very strong. All right, so let's look at the footprint on the intraday. So I primarily wanted to show, again, if you've been looking at the homework recently, we're talking about how the buyers were just really holding, higher highs, higher lows for the whole time. Higher highs, still the higher low, but this would be for the non-farm payrolls. This be a little better that we'll look on the candles. So essentially, 65-minute candles, high sell, the very low negative delta from the sellers. You can see defense from the buyers. Clearly, these sellers were down here trying as well, but this is actually a little easier to see on a 30-minute, even more so on the 15-minute. So let me scooch this and you just bear with me. Actually, we'll go ahead and do this 30-minute. It's much easier to see on the ES. So the NQ was a little stronger today. So they weren't selling off as hard at first, but once they really started breaking here, you started to see some acceleration to the downside, about 200 points. Okay. As we started to bottom out, notice the delta, more force, still high volume, completely outside bar engulfed, pressure on the buy side, and then just the delta pretty much told the story. Just a short squeeze, essentially. You can see the sellers were trying the whole time. They just could not get it to stop. A lot of sellers were just off balance, it seems. Possibly some people that were stuck from these prior sessions. This looks a little cooler on the ES. So you will see big 65-minute bar and then another one here. Okay, what does that look like on the 30? Okay, same situation here. We start off with a big sell bar with much more positive delta. So you're like, what's going on there? You see the buyers are really trying. No effort. And it's getting worse with sellers really stepping in, them having a little bit of an excess. Sellers are trying at this point and they're pushing even lower. And then as we have this compression bar here for this 30 minutes, volume is still fairly decent. The delta is plus 65, plus 5,600. So you can see they're really trying. As we push up a bit more, these sellers are still trying. If you can see the red that's in here, they're just absolutely trying, not getting much reward. And then with the 15-minute candles, as we make our way down and we're pushing our way up, you can see the delta. You can see these fools, these sellers are really trying. Let me delete this one actually. You can see these sellers are really trying here. So just this whole way, just the buyers are just carrying like they're Sisyphus, the sellers up a hill. It was just really interesting to see. The stop run was just basically coiling, stop runs, and then they just couldn't make it stop, and then they just ended up just giving up towards these these highs. But again, we can glean a little more from the candle, so just bear with me. So again, as we're looking at this in hindsight, during our review at the moment, I neglected to mention the non-farm payroll, not non-farm payrolls, but the CPI that came out today. Do you remember last night that there was the presidential debate? And that was all this up in here. After it was done, after that was done, you see the market was able to recover again. So as we're having these overnight sessions where we're selling off and the market continues to recover, even with these are just the RTH sessions. Remember, we had our Tuesday, that was a big drop. Wednesday coil, Wednesday coil, Thursday coil, non-farm payrolls drop. So we're bear flagging this whole time. And as we are bear flagging, looking at the overnight sessions, just for whatever reason, these fools cannot trade lower. Even with the presidential debate, people tried and it failed. Even with the CPI, which was massive to a degree, fairly large responsibility and 30 plus points, which we've seen worse. That could not stay down. As we head into the RTH, making our new high, we completely sell off aggressively. These are these 3-minute candles. There was no stopping, completely under this 5 smoothing average the whole time until we bottom out, which was basically the end. Straight down the whole time. Where were we headed though? This is an open drive. We're opening drive and we're heading where exactly? Because we started at the top of the CPI candle, top of this SOC, and we get repriced down into the same bracket, and the bracket isn't even finished, and we're continually leaking lower. Okay, where are we headed? Because we're not finding any kind of support. There's no green candles. Where did we find our first green candle? This is near the 20s. Okay, let's look backwards. Let's look at the RTH. Where are these 20s at? Freaking Friday, the non-farm payrolls. Okay, cool. So we have some potential support here. That eventually gets engulfed. Make a new low. Another green bar, very tight. Slowly drifting. You're seeing that pressure is not happening the same way. If you look at the trade bubbles, these fools are trying. Sellers are really trying. That's 2,000 lots. Just really trying, and then they gave up. Tried a little bit more here, but they could not keep price lower at all. Even when they did break below the 5 smoothing average, which is going to be for our momentum, completely engulfed through repricing back to CPI, the CPI low that is. Where do we stop? Basically, a few points from the low of non-farm payrolls. So I was trading this in real time, and I did not catch that significance. So there wasn't an immediate response, but as we sat sideways and we claimed this 5 smoothing average, this should have been a green light. Chop sideways for 3 minutes, impulse through, and we could not stay above. Actually, at this point, we closed under the 5 smoothing average for the 3 minute candle once, twice, 3 times, and we'll just count this for this little cluster. We had 4 closes below the 5 smoothing average for the 3 minute for the next 4 hours. So yeah, that's just amazing. This was a straight trend up, completely all the way through the SOC low. Excuse me, let me go back. 5 smoothing average through the VWAP, pushed through the IB mid. We were selling. We were a part of this in real time, getting smoked. Bust through the VWAP, bust through the full session VWAP, bust through the IB low, and pierced all the way back down with our first close. The first close, the first opportunity for buyers to get in on this momentum was completely taken, and we couldn't trade below our VWAP. Back into this range, same situation. Once we get into the next range of the SOC low, our first attempt to get back out of the range, no, we're trading higher. And then we move sideways. We get into this IB mid. There's no closes below the 5 smoothing average. So though we're channeling upwards, this may not be the most comfortable trade to get in. We're not trading below with our momentum. No real pullbacks until we get into the high of the day, and even that cannot get past this momentum. And then that's pretty much all she wrote. Just straight trend day. But just the significance of it. Look where the HOD was. So this was Tuesday, Monday. This is non-farms payroll Friday, which we pushed through. And we burst through the Thursday. And almost the damn Wednesday as well. This is just a massive move. I was really proud to follow the story and be a part of this, even though I got trampled over today. It's all good. It's all love. Same situation here for the NQ. Same story with the higher highs and the higher lows, the inability to trade much lower. Yeah. Inability to trade much lower. Looking at the CPI, the CPI SOC, that is. Same situation. They're a little stronger here. You can see them putting up a fight, even putting up a fight on their way down the whole time. But where do they stop? Once they caught their bottom, they're still within Tuesdays and Mondays range, which is still above the shorts that are trapped. If you look at this on the daily, those sellers that are trapped, these guys down here. So history matters for sure. So solid day overall. If we had to find the trade of the day, the ES was the weaker of the two. So in real time, in retrospect, this looks, simple. I was a little more tough to do the trading longs on the ES, but given the context, once we failed to make a new low for the non-farm payrolls, that was your insight that, okay, maybe sellers have ran out of steam. Once they, and again, it's just everything I explained. Once we start engulfing through here, we really need to be on a look for any pullbacks below this range that closes and judge what happens afterwards, which was engulf. This would have been a green light here. So, I mean, finding a trade is a little tough after that point, but really here for myself, for my notes, this is a trade that I'll be looking for. Um, and this is, the sexiest trade because of what happened on the beginning. Um, Same situation here for the A and the B bracket. The close, the close of the close of this candle for the SOC low. Given the context of the SOC that's here, once we came down here and closed, typically this is a part of our playbook as well. Just a simple sell stop below here or a buy stop if it's near the high. There wasn't too much movement above here. This was about 4 points. Definitely a little bit uncomfortable, but given the range that we're seeing in the aggressiveness, if I would wanted to possibly having a stop here at this IB mid, that would be like 10 points, and that feels really strong. If you had a particular target, then by all means, you can maybe target, the prior day's low or something like that for about, 2 to 1. But really, this is a part of our playbook. We had this. There are a few little other 1 minute setups that were here. We won't do those because we need a little more context. But essentially, simple sell stop below the SOC low, and then this first pullback to this close of this 5 smoothing average after the context of the wonderful save that the buyers had, the reclaim of the 5 smoothing average, the engulfing behavior that we were seeing, the higher highs and the higher lows, the inability to trade below it, more engulfing, more trend trading, automatic reclaim of the IB mid, first pullback of the IB low rather. This is when you can possibly look to entry. Where your stop would be, I am unsure. Even if you want to be below here, that's kind of up to you. It really, and of course, to use to me from myself. But really, the context matters here. Even if this was like a little smaller of a pullback, but ideally, if this is really going to be a train here, and given that all these people are stuck, there's possibility for a nice little trade. You can also get in here, but again, this, like I said, that'd be like 1 minute candles that we'll be getting into. So yeah, I really just need to clean up my singles, and I don't have much to say as far as looking forward because it seems like we are just potentially heading back into balance. But how well did the buyers do today? Damn good job. This is just more of the same, higher highs and higher lows. We've been talking about the small bullish hints recently, and this was just a play out of it and very ill positioned shorts for the day. Just double checking my notes, making sure it's nothing else. So looking ahead, I see no reason why we wouldn't have more continuation, though it is a possibility that we revert back to recent balance, but our true balance is near these prices, these higher prices that we're trading at, above the 5500s. Again, do remember that the next 2 days we're going to have our rollover, so you do want to be mindful of that. Um, so yeah, good luck. Please stay safe and use your daily loss limit.